Hello and welcome to Big Friendly Grub. I hope you are well, and I'm going to start off by apologising if the lighting is terrible today. It's only 9:30, but it's like it's already night time almost. It's so grey and horrible out there today. Look, I'll show you. Look, it's blooming horrible out there. It's rainy, windy, it's disgusting. Ugh. That's why I am staying in today and doing a video for you guys. Let me just refocus this back over here. Ooh, professional camera skills in action. So I'm a bit nervous and excited about today's video because this isn't going to be like one of my recipes or anything like that. Instead, this is more of a let's try attempt, very much an attempt at trying to do one of Barry Lewis's videos. So if you haven't heard me mention Barry Lewis on the channel before, I'll be quite surprised because I mention him quite frequently. He's quite a big influence on one of the reasons why I got this channel going. He's been doing this whole YouTube business for years and years and years, and he's got dang good at it. He's got a really down-to-earth style, and he's got such an accessible style, and it makes anyone feel like they can do this kind of thing. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy his videos so much. Is one of the reasons why I started doing this. But one of the things he does quite frequently is giant foods. And he's made like all sorts of things like giant chocolate bunnies, like giant tea cakes, all sorts. So today I'm going to be attempting one of his videos because next week, sadly, it's going to be my colleague Scottie's last week working at my employer's RocketMill, and one of Scottie's main things that he likes to bring into the office is his cinnamon rolls. I like making cinnamon rolls, but that's been Scottie's thing since he's been working there, and I've never wanted to impede on that. But as it's Scottie's last week, I thought, well, seeing as he's leaving, we've got to mark it with something to do with cinnamon rolls. So I'm going to be attempting Barry Lewis's giant cinnamon roll. Yes, that is what I'm going to try. And I say try because this could go horribly, horribly wrong. Barry's very, very much used to this, but I am not.
What, I nearly destroyed it then?
This is what we're going to be attempting. We're going to be trying to do this. Yeah, that's what we're going to try and do. I don't know if it will work, but I'm going to give it a damn good try. I've made cinnamon rolls before, but never anything on this scale. So, Barry, I hope I do you proud, mate. I've even got me giant tin. Look at that. That is probably exactly the same tin that Barry used on his video. It is 15 inches in diameter. It's 4 inches deep, and it's going to be quite an epic video today. It may go horribly, horribly wrong. We will find out. So this could take quite a while, so we better get started. Help! Right, the first thing we need to do is our dough, and I could be setting myself up for failure already because I'm already going off piste off of what Barry did. You see, he did all of his in a bowl by hand, and I'm going to be doing mine in a stand mixer because I don't fancy needing 3 lots of dough by hand. And I'm going to do it in a slightly different way because what Barry did, he put his like liquid ingredients into a bowl and then added in the dry ingredients, and that's not what I'm used to. I'm used to doing dry ingredients first, then gradually adding in the wet ingredients to slowly make a dough. So that's what I'm going to attempt today, and hopefully it will go well. Sorry, Barry, it's not that I don't trust you. I very much do trust you, but I'm just doing what I'm used to because if I try and do anything different, I'm a bit scared I will mess it up horribly. So first things first, I'm going to need to weigh out the flour. So Barry used 700 grams, but he did his by separating his into 500 grams and then keeping 200 grams aside for kneading. But I'm not doing that, I'm just going to weigh it all out. This is going to be an extremely messy recipe, I think. I'm going to have to try and not have to tidy up too much as I go along. So add in lots and lots of flour. Ooh. That was pretty much bang on. Couldn't do that again if I tried. Then we want some easy bake yeast. This is like quick yeast. We don't have to like leave it to kind of like activate or anything like that. We can just chuck it straight into our dry ingredients. So I'm going to add in about 10 grams of this because this is a enriched dough. So it's got butter and milk and sugar in it. So it needs a bit more oomph to be able to rise properly. Then we want 100 grams of caster sugar. So I'm going to add this straight in like this, because it's a very sweet dough. It's kind of like if you were making brioche, but we're not adding any eggs into this. Speaking of brioche, that's something I love making, and it is probably a future video I will do. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And if you're not interested in that, it probably won't matter, because I'll probably do it anyway. You've probably noticed I'm trying out a new camera angle today. Doesn't feel like that trying to do something as tricky as this while experimenting new camera angles seems like the best idea. But I'm really winging it today, so why not? Let's give it a go. What's the worst that could happen? So now it's the time for our wet ingredients, and in this case it is going to be 500 milliliters of milk and 125 grams of melted butter. I've already brought the milk up to being lukewarm temperature and melted the butter, because you don't need to see me do that. It's just me putting stuff into a microwave. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set this up to go on a low speed, and I'm going to gradually add this into our dry ingredients to bring it together into a dough that will hopefully be a nice consistency. Doing it this way allows me to kind of judge the dough and make sure it doesn't get too wet or anything like that, because I'm doing it this way and not going to be kneading it outside of the machine, if you see what I mean. So let's bring this down. I'm going to start it off on a slow speed and just gradually add all of this in. I'll probably do about half to start with. Let it gradually bring itself together. So you can see I've added about half of that already. Oh, it's going to start making a mess. I should have put the guard on. Oh, this is nearly as bad as icing sugar. Actually, nothing could be as bad as icing sugar. Speaking of icing sugar, we get to use that later for the cream cheese icing. Yay, my favourite. That's right, add a bit more of this in gradually. So, I don't know if you can see that, actually. Yeah, you can just about see that. So you can see that's probably just starting to come together. So it's at this point I'm just going to gradually add this in a bit more at a time. My poor old stand mix is struggling a bit. It's getting on in age in a bit, so I'm hoping it will start keeping it together for all this dough I've got to do. So you can see this dough is looking about the right sort of consistency for me. It's a bit tacky, but it's making the bowl clean. So I think this is good for me. I'm not going to add any more of this in, but I might judge it as it gets needed. But this is fine. This won't go to waste. I can use this for the next batch of dough I've got to do, because I've got 2 more batches of dough to do after this. So I'm going to let this knead for a good 5-6 minutes or so, and we'll bring it out after that and see how it looks. Right, that's finished kneading. It's looking like a really nice dough. This is going to be able to roll out really well, I think, for when we need to do our strips to make our cinnamon rolls, because this isn't going to be your typical cinnamon roll. No. So what I'm going to do with this is pop it into a bowl like this, and I'm going to cover it in cling film. I don't have a Rackmaster 3000 like Barry does, so I'm just going to have to make use of my normal cling film. Careful not to cut my fingers, I've done that before. It's very, very sharp. And I'm going to leave that to one side for that to start proving. And oh, that would have probably been quite a close-up for you, I'm sorry. Now I'm going to leave that to one side and get on with my next 2 batches of dough, because we're going to need 3 of these bad boys. Right, time has passed and I have now got 3 batches of dough to make the giant cinnamon roll. You can probably see that this one is already raising up, but these are going to need probably about an hour or so to rise and hopefully double in size. My poor old KitchenAid is actually quite hot now. It's had a bit of a battery. Yeah, that is really hot actually. But yeah, I'm going to give these a good hour or so to hopefully prove and double in size, and then we can try and come back and start making the filling and then constructing this thing. Yeah, we're going to have to try and construct this thing in fairly limited space. It's not the biggest work surface, so yeah, this is going to be a tricky one. Fingers crossed. Oh, hello. So it's been over an hour now, for sure, and these have now doubled in size. Look at those. You can see that one, all nicely doubled in size. This one doesn't look like it's doubled in size, but it has, just because the bowl is so blooming massive. And this one has definitely doubled in size. So these are all good to get rolling out. But before we do that, I have to shift these over. Oh, so much stuff. To make our filling, our lovely buttery cinnamon filling, we need a bowl. We need 500 grams of room temperature butter. You can tell this is room temperature because if I do this, it goes splat. Then we're also going to need some brown sugar. Barry wasn't overly accurate with this. He just basically got a bag and he said, do it by sneezing. So, this it's about 500 grams there. Then last but not least for our cinnamon rolls, we need ground cinnamon. And Barry was pretty generous with this. He literally used a whole jar of cinnamon. So I am going to do the same. Whoa. That is a lot of cinnamon. Whew. Oh, it smells good though. And then we just bring all this together into a lovely buttery filling that will hopefully end up nice and spreadable to spread into our dough. So there we go, that's our cinnamon filling for our cinnamon rolls. It smells lovely, buttery and cinnamony, and that is going to be fantastic. And the good thing is, because it's not too warm today, I can probably put this to one side and it's not going to melt too much more. So that is going to be hopefully nice and spreadable to go in our dough. So I'm going to put this to one side and then we will try and clear this up and get rolling this out. Right, I lied. We're not going to get rolling this out just yet because we need to grease this thing first. Look at the size of that. It's ridiculous. It's huge. It's like bigger than my biggest bowl, and this is a big bowl. So we're going to need to grease this up with some butter, which I still have plenty of. So just give this a good grease, because you shush. So we're going to need to give this a really, really good grease, because last thing we want is our cinnamon roll to get stuck in this. I think it should be all right, but I'm not going to take any chances. This is what Barry did on his, so it's what I am doing on mine, because I have yet to use this thing. I've given it a wash, but other than that it has not had anything in it, so I don't know how it cooks, and this is all a bit scary, to be honest. So giving this a good grease of butter. So much butter being used today. So how you doing? Don't mind me, just greasing my big dish, getting all those corners, especially the corners, because I don't want it to get stuck in those. Right, okay, I think we're nearly there. Ugh, butter all over me. Butter to the left of me, butter to the right, here I am, stuck in the middle with butter. I don't know where I was going with that. Right, so now put this to one side. Now I can get started with the dough. Right, I'm going to get started with the very first batch of dough I made, because that has had more time to prove itself, and boy have you proved yourself. Baking jokes. And I am going to lightly dust the surface with some flour, not too much, because I went the opposite way of Barry, and instead of adding flour later during the kneading process into a wet dough, I just worked the liquid into the flour in order to hopefully get a nice consistency of the dough. So I won't need too much of this, I hope. And I'm going to take this out. Pop this down here and chuck some flour over the top of it as well. Then what I'm going to need to do is roll this out so it's nice and long, but also hopefully wide enough to be 2 strips width to be able to fit into our tin over there, which is 4 inches deep. So I'm going to have to try and make this, well there we go, that is nearly about 8 inches deep already. So probably about that is the width that we want it. So I need to try and roll this out along that way to see how long I can get it without getting it too thin. So we've got about the width we want. So I'm going to try and hopefully roll this out to a decent length. Right, I think that's as thin as I go with it without making it too thin. Got a bit of length on it. We can hopefully cut this into 2 strips. So I need my tape measure, see how wide we've actually gotten. So that is actually, oh, that's quite wide. That's like just over 12 inches. So I'm going to need to trim off some of this. I would say probably about here. And trim about here. I'm going to trim off some of the dough here. We can put this to one side and we might be able to use it to create another batch of dough to be able to 2 more strips later. That's what Barry ended up doing up with his, so that is what I will hopefully do with mine. So probably trim this bit off here as well. This is where we need to trim along here. Thankfully I sharpened my knife today. I'm hoping I'm not cutting into the work surface because my landlord won't be best pleased otherwise. And over here as well. Chop along here. So hopefully that's reasonably around 8 inches. It's a little bit over, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. I'd rather be over than under. Trim this hopefully about down the middle. Actually, yeah, that should be about right. I won't trust myself with my measurements. There we go, and we've got 2 big strips there. It's malleable, so we can always shape it around if we need to and flatten it down if we need to. So let's not worry about being too accurate. This is, well, baking's a science. It's also an experimental science. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Right, let's put you to one side and tackle this one first. And a spatula to start spreading this on. I want to be fairly generous with it. This is looking about right though. If I remember from Barry's video, this is looking about the right consistency. This stuff doesn't look like the most appealing stuff when you're spreading it out like this, but I'm sure it's going to taste absolutely fantastic as he gets it all over the work surface. Clever me. Just going to damp down this edge a little bit, and here comes the moment of truth. I'm going to try and roll this up as tight as I possibly can. Oh, and there we go, there's our first roll. It's looking a bit messy at the moment, but once we actually start rolling this up, we can start pressing it down and shaping it. So I'm going to pop that to one side for a moment and get our second strip. And spread this one out as well. Right, and that's another one done. Let's dab down the end of this. Dab, hold on, dab. And pop this on and wrap this round here as well. Oh, I can't believe this is actually coming together. I saw Barry do this and I thought, Matt, you're going to completely mess this up. But it's actually kind of coming together already. Look at that. Pop that into the middle there. See, that's already looking pretty big. I mean, that could make you like one giant cinnamon roll. So as I add to this, I'm going to press it down. I don't want to press it down too much now because we've already got to try and get more layers around this. But that's already looking pretty good. So I'm going to move this to one side. I'm going to move out of shot as well. I'm going to move this to one side and then attempt the other strips. So fingers crossed that this goes as well. Right, I have successfully managed to do 2 more strips. So now I've got to try and wrap these around my existing roll, my starter roll, whatever you want to call it, my baby roll, my mini roll. I just got to get these round. I'm very excited. It's going better than I thought it would so far, but we're not finished yet. This could still go horribly, horribly wrong. Right, you can see, ooh, you shush. Right, you can see this is already starting to expand out, so I've got to try and wrap this thing around here. I'm going to move this over here. Oh, there's so much going on in so little space. So I'm going to dab. I won't do a dab again because I'm already damaging my credibility by doing it before. And let's take this bad boy and roll him up along and around. Oh my gosh, this is becoming insane. Already, I can't believe Barry came up with this idea. That's why I love Barry. He has the most crazy ideas and they always seem to come off. Barry, I hope I do you proud today, I really do. So, right, and the next one, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Oh, geez. Look at that. That is becoming ridiculous. Okay. Right. It's getting there. It's sticking. It's sticking. It's staying in place. Oh my gosh. Can you see this? Can you see this? Whoa. Oh, it's really heavy. And I've got to get another, at least 2, potentially another 4 strips around that. So this is where it's going to start getting hard. But that's looking pretty good already. I can't believe this is actually working. I thought I was going to make a complete pig's ear of this, which is still possible, it is. But I'm going to put this to one side and roll out 2 more strips. And judging by my pile of cuttings here, I should have enough for another 2. So fingers crossed, people. Right, you can see I've managed to get another 2 strips done here. But the problem I face now, which is one Barry faced in his video, is that this has been expanding as I've been doing these, because obviously the yeasting it is proving to be a problem, or it's not proving to be a problem because it's doing exactly what it needs to do, but this is obviously making it a bit more unwieldy to handle. So probably what I'm going to have to do is what Barry did, and that is try and wrap this around a bit like a scarf and poke this in here. So you can barely reach round, but it's sticking, it is sticking. Try and get this one. Oh, this is getting tricky. So try and get this one around here as well. Oh. So I think if I get another 2 strips out of this remainder dough here, bring this all together, because this is all my trimmings. This has made nearly another like loaf here, loaf? You know what I mean, another batch of dough. So if I can get 2 more strips out of this, this should make it hopefully big enough that when it proves, it reaches like nearly the edge of the tin. Probably don't want it reaching too much. In fact, I'm going to flatten this down a bit because that is starting to rise up in the middle. See, it's bringing it out. This is insane. You know, I've watched Barry do this a few times because I thought I need to watch and see how he does this. And for it to be coming together right now is really exciting. Terrifying, but exciting. So, going to put this to one side, use a bit of water to bring this together and hopefully get 2 more strips to kind of add around this. It's not looking as big as Barry's did, but I think he managed to get his strips into longer strips. But I'm not going to worry about this. It's coming together better than I hoped it would. So, last batch of strips, and then we can start thinking about getting this into the oven. That's another whole thing entirely. Oh God, it's heavy. Right, I did manage to get 2 more rough strips out of that dough. It was quite hard to roll out and manipulate because it's already been rolled out once before, and obviously the gluten in it was getting tighter and making it harder to roll out. But I did manage to get a couple of rough strips, which would at least allow us to put at least 1 more around here, allow it to come out a bit more and give it a fighting chance of hopefully filling up this tin. So I'm going to try and get these around here. Oh, they're quite thick strips because there's having to try and get them rolled out. So the end is going to be a bit thicker. I'm going to just dab this down with some water to make sure everything's sticking down. Dab the ends of these. And oh, just try and get this last one round. There we go. Oh, yeah, that is a lot thicker than the rest of the dough. But I think once this is proved, because we're going to give it an hour, at least an hour as proof, hopefully it will expand and at least fill up this tin. You can see it's already expanding, it's coming up in the middle there. If I push this down, it brings it out even further. This is quite ridiculous. I mean, it looked impressive when Barry was doing it, but when you see it in person, you think, my God, this is insane. It's messy, I'm a mess, this is a mess, but we have got something resembling a giant cinnamon roll. So I don't know if this is going to come out as impressive as Barry's, but by gosh, we're doing better than I thought we would. Throat's getting very dry, so I'm going to need a cup of tea after this, but I'm going to get this covered in cling film. I'm going to put it to one side, give it some time to prove. We'll come back in about an hour and get this in the oven and see how it turns out. Because at the moment, I don't know. It's promising, but I'm not counting my chickens before they turn into cinnamon rolls or something. Anyway, got to tidy up and we'll get this covered in cling film. Exciting step, I know. Right, I've had a quick clear up because I couldn't just leave that mess like that. And you might be able to see just out of shot, this is already in that like 5 minutes while I've been tidying up, this is already expanded out and is moving out and is looking ridiculous. So I am going to get this covered in cling film. It's going to need quite a bit of cling film. This is not the best thing for the environment, but I don't think anything else will do the job today. So I'm going to cling this film right up. Right, that is all layered up and covered. I've hit a skip. I'm sweating like a beast and I'm really, really hot and tired. But it's like a skipping record there. I have covered this in cling film. And now all that is left to do, well, that's all that's left to do, but the next thing to do is just to give this a good hour or so to prove and hopefully expand even further, even though it's already a bit of a beast already. And hopefully this will reach the edges of the tin. But even if it doesn't, it's still going to expand in the oven, which will be the next thing after this. It'll be cooking time. I'm excited, I'm nervous, but it's going pretty well so far. So fingers crossed that it stays that way. We'll be back in about an hour or so. Right, it has been a good hour or so that I've been leaving this to rise, and well, you can have a look for yourself. Look at this, that is huge. I've actually had to press it down in the middle a couple of times just because it was doming up right in the middle so much. But look, it is massive. It's nearly coming out to the edge of the tin, which is great because now it can go into the oven and hopefully it will come out, fill out the tin and rise up to the top and hopefully roughly fill up this tin. So, oh man, it's going well so far. I'm getting stuff all over me, it's everywhere. But I've got the oven set to 200 degrees at the moment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this in at 200 and then lower it right down to 140. So hopefully it will start it off with a nice cook, but then start to slowly cook it. And we'll just put it in for about 90 minutes, I reckon, an hour and a half. I think that's how long Barry put his in for, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, let's get this into the oven, get this thing baked, because I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it's going to turn out. It's looking ridiculous. Brilliant, but ridiculous. So I'm going to get this in. Yeah, I didn't even check to see whether this actually fits in the oven. Thankfully, it does. That would have been a disaster. Oh, that just about fits. If that had been any bigger, that would not have fit in my oven. So that's at 200 right now, and I am going to bring this down to 140. And yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on it, but I'm going to give this about an hour and a half, 90 minutes, and see how it goes. But I'm really excited and nervous about this. I just hope it works. We've come this far. Let's see how this goes. Right, it's been a good 90 minutes since this went in, and I've been checking it every now and again, and I've had to like press it down a couple of times. It's been rising up so much. Come and check this out. Oh, look at that. That is enormous. It's ridiculous. It has risen and is expanded to the width, diameter, whatever of the tin. It's heavy. It's looking fantastic. It smells fantastic, and this is really hot. So I'm going to move this up here right now and have a look at that. That is a big cinnamon roll. There's not too many words for that, except that is a big cinnamon roll. So probably what I'm going to have to do with this now is to leave it to cool in the tin for a little bit, because this is entirely far too hot to try and get out of the tin right now. And what we can do while this cools down is make the cream cheese icing that is going to go on this. But that is huge. What I actually did was, about 20 minutes from the end of its cooking time, I actually put a little bit of an egg wash on it just to give it a bit more browning, a bit more of a golden colour. But otherwise, that is looking pretty good. I may have pressed it down, may have pressed it down a bit too much over here, but when you're trying to handle a cinnamon roll this big, it's quite tricky. But I'm going to leave this to cool now, and we can have a go at making some cream cheese icing. Right, in order to make our cream cheese, we are going to need some cream cheese to start off with, obviously. I'm going with the brand that is named after a place in the United States. And Barry said we need about 250 grams of this, so I think we need one full one of these. Oh, there we go. Decided to dive right out there. So probably about 1.5 of these, 1.5 tubs, I reckon. Maybe a little bit more. Get off. And we also need a couple of tablespoons of milk. So I've still got a load of milk here earlier from when we were making our dough. So I'm going to put a couple of tablespoons in with that. And also a couple of tablespoons of melted butter. And thankfully, I've still got some butter left over from earlier from the dough. So I'm going to put a couple of tablespoons of that in there as well. And we also want a bit of vanilla extract. I'm going to use some of my homemade stuff here. Probably that much will do. Barry said about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I just eyeballed it. Then I'm going to quickly bring this all together before I add in the icing sugar, because I think that will make life easier. I could be entirely wrong about this. I'm not really following Barry's part of the recipe here. It's a bit naughty, but I'm doing what makes sense, so hopefully this will work. Basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to minimise the amount that the icing sugar will go absolutely everywhere. There we go. That looks a lot, well, creamier than earlier, so that is probably good to add in our icing sugar in. I'm going to add this straight in. I'm going to need 250 grams of this. Watch this go absolutely everywhere. Okay, that is about 250 grams. So move the scale out of the way, and now I'm going to mix this into our cream cheese mixture until hopefully it becomes a nice smooth icing. I might need to get the whisk out for this, but I'm going to try and mix it in a bit to start so I don't get so much icing sugar everywhere. I might not need the whisk, actually. I might be all right. Not that it will stop me making a mess anyway. I've decided I'm going to switch to the whisk just to get out the lumps from this, because I didn't actually sift my icing sugar, which is a bit naughty, but I'm sure this will be fine. This should help get out the last of the lumps. As you can see, that is smoothing out really, really nicely. In fact, that is pretty much done. That is looking like a nice, smooth cream cheese icing, which will go all over the top of our giant cinnamon roll. Assuming I can get it out of the tin. That's going to be the hardest part of all, and I'm still not sure how I'm going to do that, because Barry had a couple of large boards to his disposal. I've got one, and then after that I'm not really sure how I'm going to keep turning it over, so I'm a bit worried about that stage. But there's not too much I can do at the moment because it's still cooling down, so I'm going to put this to one side, and then we're going to tackle getting that thing out of the tin. Help! Hello! Don't mind my casual position here. This is kind of the camera angle that I think I'm going to need. It's kind of moment of truth time, because I think I need to try and get it out of the tin. It's not had an awfully long time to cool down, probably about 20-30 minutes if that. But I'm probably going to have to do this while the tin is still relatively warm, because obviously there's a load of butter and sugar in here, and if this cools down too much it's going to stick to the bottom of the pan. It's going to be a nightmare to get out. So yeah, moment of truth time. So I decided what I'm going to do is, I've got my biggest board here. In fact, it is my only big board. All the other boards I've got are just these little ones over here. And I've covered it in cling film because there's going to be a lot of butter and stuff, and I don't want to damage my board too much with a load of oil and things like that. And then, then the next bit is, once hopefully I've got it onto there in one piece, is all I can do is hopefully get it onto these two boards, cooling racks, that's what it is. I'm so nervous about this, I've forgotten what they were called. And then hopefully I can turn this back over, but I'm not sure how well this is going to work. I hope I don't mess this up. I'm so nervous, I'm very, very worried about this, but what else can I do? I should have got another board like this before I attempted this, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. So what I'm going to do is bring this over here, tip this up. Oh, this is so heavy. This could go horribly, horribly wrong. I'm not sure the best way of doing this. Actually, I'm going to turn it around that way, because this has got a lip on it, and I might be able to flip it over and get the lip over here. Gosh, I hope this works. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I tell you what, I'm glad I've been doing personal training lately. Oh my goodness. Okay, that went better than I expected, but now I've got to try and turn this back over. Thankfully that didn't stick too much. This is what I was worried about. If I'd left this to cool any longer, it would have got stuck. So that's still in one piece, that's good. But what do I do now? Because now I've got to try and get it onto these two things, and that was hard enough as it was. Attempting to flip this over straight. Oh my goodness. Okay, my hand's trapped underneath. Don't panic. Oh, that might have worked. Oh, that worked. I don't believe it. And actually, there wasn't too much stuff on there, so that's good. Okay, we did it. Okay, that is out. So that can actually finish cooling down. I wonder if I can transfer this back onto the board. Oh my goodness. I don't know if I can actually. Can I attempt this one more time? Can I? Oh, I'm a bit worried about the structural integrity of this. Do I just leave it? Or do I try and slide it back onto here? I might try and slide it back onto here, you know, because I'm going to want it on here for transportation anyway. I might try this. This is a risky business. Guys. No. I might leave it to cool down a bit more before I try doing any more maneuvers. Because if this cools down and gets stuck, you shush. This is not the time. I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to leave that to cool down a bit more before I put some of the icing on it. And I'm going to go compose myself because I can't believe that actually worked. But I'm also a bit worried about moving it again in the future. So we're going to see how that goes. But one step at a time, we're nearly done. We're almost there, home stretch. So what else can I do apart from give it a bit more time to cool down? We'll be back in half an hour, maybe? Don't know. Winging it now. Right. While the camera was off, I decided to try and do something about the situation I had going on because I was very, very worried all of a sudden about it getting stuck to the cooling racks because I realised that sugar and butter was just going to melt onto those racks and it was going to be a nightmare to get off. And I thought with the pressure of trying to film that part, just that last part was so immense. I think I actually left my mic off on that last part. So if that last part of the video, the audio is a bit off, I apologise. But what I want to do is try and get that off those cooling racks onto that board. And I have managed to succeed. Mostly. I'll show you what I mean. So you can see here are my cooling racks and they were doing exactly what I was worried about. You can see there's some of the cinnamon roll stuck onto that and falling off onto my hand and then onto my floor. So if I'd left that too long, that would have utterly got stuck onto these cooling racks and I would never have been able to get it off in one piece. Thankfully, as you can see over here, I've shot, I managed it. I managed to get it onto the board. I did what I should have done in the first place and actually put some baking paper underneath it. I should have actually put that into the base of our baking tin because then I would have sidestepped this whole getting stuck onto everything basically. And I don't know why I didn't do that in the first place, to be honest, but never mind. There was almost a bit of a catastrophe because you can see here it's sunk in a bit more where it was getting pulled away and getting stuck onto that cooling rack. But to be honest, I'll take that little bit of damage over not being able to do anything with it at all, having it totally wrecked. So overall, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm happy that it's still in one piece. A little bit sunk in the middle, but I'm not worried about that. Not worried about that at all. So now I can actually get this thing iced because I'm running out of light, I'm running out of steam, and I'm running out of patience. But we're almost there. We are almost there. So let's get some icing on this thing and it can then cool and I can take some photos with it and then I can take this to work tomorrow and everyone can try it. It might be a bit doughy in the middle, but I think it was always going to be. But sometimes I like a bit of doughiness in a cinnamon roll. And if anyone doesn't want a doughy bit, they can have some on the outside. So I've got our cream cheese icing. Let's get this over here. Let's get it all onto that middle. Let's try and cover up some of those imperfections, much like I try and do with filters and my life. Yeah, basically Instagram filtering the heck out of this. You see the swear, look at that. Yeah, that's starting to look like a proper cinnamon roll now that we're getting that cream cheese icing onto it. I'm having to resist just not eating the icing straight off the spatula because I love this stuff. Oh, this has been an epic journey. Tell you what, I don't know how Barry does this all the time. This is extremely stressful with this making giant food stuff. Don't know how he does it on such a regular basis. But this is why he has hundreds of thousands of followers and why he is so incredibly good at what he does. I'm just happy that we've been able to actually do this. Oh, there we go, look at that. God, that weighs an absolute ton. And my next issue will be getting this to work tomorrow because it weighs God knows how much this weighs. I mean, I put like nearly 2 kilos of flour into it as well as everything else. It's got to weigh around 3 kilos. It is a monster, but we did it. Yeah, I'm going to put this down and let it rest for a moment, and I'll set up hopefully a better camera angle for this. We'll go back to our usual camera angle to kind of wrap this up until we can hopefully cut into this tomorrow, as long as it makes it safe. Please make it safe. Oh, there we go. Check that out. That was some journey. I don't know how Barry does it all the time, but hats off to him. He nails these every time. And that was so tricky. I mean, the logistics of getting this thing out of the tin, you know, icing it, moving it around, even getting like the proportions right. It's so tricky. Yeah, I can't take any credit for this whatsoever. Obviously, he had the original recipe, did the original recipe on video about 6 months ago. And I saw it and I thought, I have to try that. Especially when, like I said at the beginning of the video, which seems so long ago, with Scottie leaving and he was like the king of cinnamon rolls at RocketMill, I had to give this a go to pay tribute to him. So Scottie, this one was for you. God, I just hope it tastes nice after all of this. I'm sure it will because it's Barry's recipe. But I won't put like the recipe in the YouTube description or anything like that like I usually do because it's not mine, but I will put a link to the original video by Barry Lewis, who is like the king of giant foods on YouTube. He is fantastic, and if you've not watched him before, please give him a like, a subscribe, and give me a like and subscribe as well, please, especially after all of this. But yeah, this is well, a bit stressful. It was actually quite fun, and I'm quite impressed at the fact that it's actually come out like it has. My only problem now is I've got to get it to work tomorrow, but that's a problem for future Matt. But if future Matt doesn't make it, then for me, do like and subscribe, and I will see you, hopefully, as long as future Matt survives, on the next Big Friendly Grub. Bye guys, I can't wave because I'm holding this thing. Bye! Hey Scottie, I'm glad you're up here, because the reason that thing's there is because it's your last week, and because you're, sorry, yeah I know, sorry, I thought I'd ambush you, so, and I want you to reveal this thing, because I spent all day working on it yesterday, because obviously you are king of the cinnamon rolls, and it's always been a territory I've never dared to tread, because I don't want to like step on your toes. But because it's your last week, I made this thing. So I'd like you to unveil it if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, that might time. Giant cinnamon roll! It's a giant cinnamon roll! Oh my god! What even are you?
It literally took like all day, but to kind of like the king of the cinnamon rolls deserved a cinnamon roll fit for a king. So yeah, yesterday, yeah, it was like, oh my god. So yeah, just to like mark the occasion.
Thanks, mate.
That's all right.
back in then.
Yeah, for sure. Gonna need a heck of a knife. You should make the first cut as well. No pressure or anything. Just dive right in there.
Did you like this video when you came with us in that? No, still no.
Has anyone sworn? I'll have to bleep it out.
Yeah, but just did.
No. Whoa. There you go.
Oh, wow.
It's a bit gooey, but let me get a plate.
Oh my god. Look at those rolls. I've never seen.
Bye, Felicia. Come on, let's go.